You are currently listening to Black Legal Talk. At Black Legal Talk, we like to critically dissect and discuss legal issues impacting the black community as we pursue justice for our people. The purpose of Black Legal Talk is to serve as an educational apparatus, making more black people cognizant of the legal issues impacting our community, how black people are using the law system to seek justice for our people, the obstacles that have impinged upon black people's ability to use the law to achieve justice for our people, as well as the creative legal strategies many black students and black lawyers are currently working on to help overcome those obstacles to pursue justice for black people. Today, I'm happy to announce that I have with me a guest who has worked at Northeastern Civil Rights and Restorative Justice Program, hoping to achieve justice for many black victims of lynchings, of terrorism, of everyday white violence. She's been on the front lines of justice for black people. Ezinne, would you mind just introducing yourself to our listening audience?
My name is Ezinne Adi. I'm currently a law student, as you mentioned. I've been working with the Civil Rights and Restorative Justice Project at Northeastern, and among other things. And CRRJ works on lynching cases from the civil rights era, like 1930s to about 1970s. So they work with families who are trying to seek justice and find out what happened to their family members. And a lot of times the official story on what happened is not what actually happened. So a lot of black men and black women were lynched during that period, and there were many cover-ups as a result. So we've just been working to uncover the details and find evidence that kind of squashes the official stories on these lynchings. So that's one of the things that I've been working on. My interests are in international law and human rights. So I'm very much interested in issues affecting black folks globally, and issues such as land rights and the environment as a whole, indigenous rights, and then, like I mentioned, human rights, so human rights and civil rights as well. I've been working on a number of things, writing papers on these subjects. I've had some experience working with various organizations before I came to Northeastern. I'm just trying to continue to work within a legal framework and figure out how we as a people can get some level of justice using the law as it relates to land and other forms of wealth.
So thank you for joining us today. We definitely look forward to this conversation as well as the knowledge that you have to provide black communities in general. So one issue what we want to discuss today relates to the Tulsa, Oklahoma rioting, which to my understanding was a catastrophic event in the black American community, where the black community in Tulsa, Oklahoma was terrorized. For our audience, Can you please describe what happened during the Tulsa, Oklahoma riots?
Yeah. I think a lot of people now really know about Tulsa and what happened in 1921, but a lot of the written accounts about Tulsa use the words race riot or use the word riot to describe what happened. I don't really like those terms because really what happened was a massacre. So I like to, if I'm going to refer to it, I try to refer to it as a Tulsa Massacre because, it kind of paints a more realistic picture of what happened. So some of the basic facts are, and you may notice some themes on other events that occurred in which black people were chased out of their neighborhoods and terrorized, certain things that kicked off lynchings and attempted lynchings and other crimes against black folks. So the basic facts of what happened were there was a young man, I think he was about 19. He went into an elevator, and there was an elevator operator, a white woman. And it's interesting because I've seen some accounts that describe the black man as a man, and then describe the woman in this as a girl. And their age difference was maybe 2 years. I think she was like 17 and he was 19 at the time. So that's kind of like, I see that as kind of another tactic to kind of misrepresent just some of the facts of the case. So he went into this elevator, and based on my research, what I saw was that he tripped, and he just basically grabbed the first thing that he could, and that was, I believe, the arm of the white woman in the elevator. And another white woman heard the person in the elevator scream, and somehow this turned into a story of he was trying to rape her. And he was taken into custody. He was taken down to the jail, and there were some very credible rumors circulating that he would be lynched. And when I say credible, I mean that because even in my work with CRRJ, a lot of these similar facts occur. Someone is arrested for some type of slight or perceived slight against a white person, or they've been accused of rape, and a lot of times those rape charges were basically just made up because the woman in the story wanted to be promiscuous, and that's a fact. Look at Emmett Till. So we found out that was a lie, but many of us already knew that anyway. So this old wrinkly woman now is on her deathbed and wants to say, oh, he never whistled at the girl, the white girl in the story. And we all knew what was up. But anyway, so with Tulsa, he tripped. It somehow became a case because he was trying to rape this woman, taken to the jail. Rumors circulated that he would be lynched. And so several black folks in the town came to the jail to make sure that did not occur. At some point, a gunshot was fired, and this set into motion a white mob that basically terrorized the entire town, destroyed properties, destroyed so many businesses in the Greenwood district. Greenwood was that area was a very thriving area for black professionals and black families. In general, they had their own library, their own school, other businesses. Those businesses were destroyed. People lost basically their livelihood, their land, their sense of dignity. They were chased out of their own neighborhood, and about 100 to 300 people, maybe more, perished, were murdered by these white mobs in Tulsa. And so we flash forward to decades later. Some of the surviving members of the community and some of the descendants of those who perished filed a lawsuit in Oklahoma, a civil lawsuit, basically against a number of parties. Some of the defendants included the state of Oklahoma, also the city of Tulsa, the police chief, other members of the police force, and some unnamed John Does were also included as defendants. And essentially the case was dismissed, and one of the main reasons that the case was dismissed was because of the statute of limitations. I believe the statute of limitations at the time, and probably still is, was 2 years on a civil suit in Oklahoma. And, Tulsa happened in 1921. The suit was filed, I want to say like 2003, 2004. It was decided on in 2004. And it was dismissed mainly because of the statute of limitations issue. And there were some other things within the case that were mentioned, but the overriding issue was statute of limitations. So we find when we're looking to try and bring a case for reparations, for the return of land that was stolen. This happened not only in Tulsa, this happened all over the United States, and pretty much anywhere that black people have resided, our land has been stolen in some form or fashion. Happened in South Africa. But one of the things that I have found is that people don't want to return the land, and they're using the law to make sure that they don't have to. So as law students, and as other legal scholars, I think it's important for us to try and think of creative strategies and think of just different ways that we can approach this issue, whether it's at the judiciary or at the legislative level, because it seems like with the statute of limitations, the judiciary was basically given deference to the legislature on that issue, and basically saying that's something that the legislature would have to take up. Another thing that was mentioned in the decision was there was a report that was published, I want to say either 1998 or 2001, but there was a report that was published many, many years after Tulsa. There was a commission that was set up in Tulsa to do this report that would basically try and set the record straight to a certain extent on what actually happened, because for a long time, the Tulsa Massacre had been seen as a quote-unquote Negro uprising. So the black community in Tulsa had gotten the blame for the events that took place. Even though we see in looking at the facts that the National Guard came in and that the police department armed white citizens of the community against black citizens of the community. So really it was a cover-up. And that was, the lawsuit mentioned that this was a cover-up, and that's why many of the defendants included the police department and other government officials, because it was a cover-up. So this report suggested that as a public policy measure, it would be a good idea to offer some sort of reparations or restitution. It made it as a recommendation. So the plaintiffs in the case did bring that up, that basically the intent of the commission's report was to make it so that here are the facts, yes, and now a way to kind of remedy this situation is to provide reparations. I believe the court kind of relied on the fact that it was a recommendation and not necessarily something that was set in stone. But like I said, the main issue was the statute of limitations issue.
So just analyzing this entire issue, and of course, black people were never compensated for the terrorism of their community. And so if you think about what this means in terms of transgenerational wealth, this is one of the most wealthiest black districts inside of the United States, and black people are constantly being told you need to pull yourself up by the bootstrap, that the reason for the black-white income wealth gap is entirely rooted in black financial mismanagement. But I think what examples like Tulsa, Oklahoma, is here we have an economically prosperous black community that's devastated unjustly by white terrorists, essentially, and we have no way of or in the status quo, those black families who were victimized by this have yet to receive even 1 penny in compensation for the wrong that was meted out against them. As I was reading this case, I think I came across reading that the white people who carried out these acts, that they were actually exonerated by the legal system. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. This has been the case in so many places where things like this have happened. Some of these very people who committed terrible, indefensible acts against black folks are walking around today. There is
like
no
that
statute.
The white woman who claimed Emmett Till Woodford at her, huh?
And lied about it, and kind of made a deathbed, a deathbed, I guess. What's the word? It's escaping me, but confession, if you will. But I mean, I don't even think she was on her deathbed. She's probably somewhere, being cared for by her family or in a, an old folks' home or something. But, this is how many years later, and she's still free, and the Till is still dead. There is no statute of limitations on murder. That's one thing to remember. But it can be very difficult trying to bring certain cases when you're going the civil route, especially, which is, what happened with the Tulsa case. But I think, and it will take some coming together of heads